you through the process of making a loaf of sourdough bread from start to finish. In my last video, I went through the process of making a starter, so here I have my starter. I'm just doing regular. I haven't quite figured out the gluten-free recipe yet, so we'll just be making a loaf of regular bread. But to get started, you'll want a food scale. I think we got this one on Amazon. They're pretty inexpensive, so it's really helpful to have an actual food scale when you're making your own bread. Obviously, you'll need a big bowl, a whisk. I like these little, this style of whisk. You'll need bread flour, so just make sure it's actually the bread flour. The King Arthur bread flour is a really good option, or I get Sam's Club version of bread flour that's been really good as well. So here we go. Just start by putting our bowl on the food scale, and we'll measure it out in grams. So make sure we have it set to the right thing. Now we want 300 grams of flour, or not flour, sorry, 300 grams of water. And then our starter, I want it to be recently fed, so I fed my starter yesterday at probably about 4 p.m. It's now 11 the following day, so it's definitely a little longer than is typically recommended. Usually they say you should plan on baking with it when it's at peak, but it's fine. It's pretty forgiving. It doesn't matter too much. Just as long as it's been recently fed, shouldn't make too big of a difference. It may just need to ferment a little longer. So go ahead and zero out my scale. Now I want 130 grams of starter. So we got I got a little more than 130, but again, it doesn't matter too much. You just want to make sure it's around that number. Around 130 grams of starter. Okay, and then we need olive oil. So I do 25 grams of olive oil. And I recommend olive oil, but if you don't have it, you can use vegetable oil as well, but just 25 grams of oil. Okay, now we're just going to mix that in. Bread flour, King Arthur is good, or I buy it in bulk at Sam's Club. Just make sure it's actually the bread flour. So we want 500 grams of bread flour. It's all mixed together. At this point, your dough will look pretty, I guess they call it shaggy. not very evenly mixed together, and that's okay. So it kind of looks like this. Now I'm just going to cover this with a towel. So I'm just going to cover this with a damp tea towel, or you can use plastic wrap, whatever. Cover it for about 30 minutes, and then we'll come back to it. Alright, so it's been about 30 minutes. Now it's time to add our salt. So we're just going to put in 2 teaspoons of salt. Okay, now just mix it with my hands. So I just want to just get that salt really mixed in there. And kind of knead it for a little bit. So now our dough pretty much looks like this. We're just going to cover it again, and now we'll do our stretch and folds. So we're going to do three sets of stretch and folds, 30 minutes apart. So we'll come back in about 30 minutes to do our first one. Alright, so it's been about another 30 minutes, so it's time to do our stretch and fold. So here's what our dough looks like. We're just going to take it, kind of work our way around. So that's all there is to it. So we'll just cover it back up and do another stretch and fold in about 30 minutes. Alright, so now we're going to do one last stretch and fold. So like I did before, we're just kind of going around the bowl and doing this. You can do 2 or 3 stretch and folds. It doesn't matter too much. Just kind of, you know, obviously if you have the time to do 3, that's great. If you don't, 2 should be fine. Okay. Alright, so that's done. So now we're just going to cover it. And we're going to let it proof, or they call this bulk fermentation. So we're going to let it bulk ferment for probably about 8 hours or so. It depends on the temperature in your house, but you just kind of want it to be doubled in size. So I'll probably check it again tonight, but it's about 8 hours or so. We'll check it again. Alright, so our bread is done proofing, and for us I just proofed it overnight. So usually it's about 8 hours or so. It can honestly be a little longer. Then I take it out of the bowl and just put it onto a nice clean workspace. Okay. We're gonna make it into a rectangle. There's a lot of different ways people shape it, but this is what I've always done, and it works pretty good for me, or works well for me. So we're just gonna kind of roll it up like this. And put this way. And now we're gonna roll it this way. Okay, and then we still have these kind of edges, so I'm just gonna kind of fold it in like this. And then I just want to kind of drag it on the counter a little bit, like this. You're just kind of trying to get as small of a circle, or small of a ball as possible. I'm just kind of dragging it on the counter. I don't like to use any additional flour. I feel like it messes it up. If your dough is really sticky, you can definitely use a little bit, but mine isn't. Okay, so that's good. Now I've just got a bowl. You can use a proofing basket, or I just had a mixing bowl, and then this is just a cheesecloth, or you can use like a tea towel, and I just lightly dusted it with all-purpose flour. So I'm just gonna take my bread here and put it this way, and then I like to kind of do this. Okay. Okay. And then I like using these little plastic shower caps. These are super cheap. You can get them. I got like a 100-pack for like $5. So I like to use those just to keep them covered and keep them from drying out. So at this point, now I'm gonna put it in the fridge and we're gonna let it cold proof for at least 6 hours. I like to do it at least, between 6 and 12 hours or so. We'll let it cold proof in the fridge before we bake it. Alright, so I've had this in the fridge overnight. I took it out now. My oven's been preheating for about an hour at 500 degrees. And I had my Dutch oven preheating in the oven. So it's nice and hot. So I'm just gonna put this out onto some parchment paper. Alright, and then I just like to dust it with a little all-purpose flour. And then I'm going to score it. Okay, so now I'm just going to put this in my preheated Dutch oven. I add a couple pieces of ice just to make it steamy. And then I'm going to put the lid on and cook this at 475 for 20 minutes. Alright, the timer went off after 20 minutes. So we're just going to see here. We're going to take the lid off. And we're going to put it down to 430. And set it for another 20 minutes. Alright, so it's been cooling off for about an hour, maybe more. You want to let it fully cool before you cut into it, or it'll kind of affect the texture and make it more gummy. So go ahead and cut into it. Looks good. This may be common sense, but you just want to use a good bread knife like this to cut it. And I like to cut it in half first, and then cut it in slices this way. So there you have it.